Hello everyone, welcome to Law Excellence unique initiative, Current Affairs for Beginners. Before starting our session, first let us see answers for the questions from our previous video. The first one is, Index of Industrial Production is an index which details out the growth of various sectors in the Indian economy such as mining, electricity and manufacturing. Who among the following is responsible for releasing the Index of Industrial Production in India? The answer here is the Central Statistics Office, which functions under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So the answer here is C. The next question is, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal serves as the appellate authority for hearing appeals against the decisions, directions or orders passed by which among the following? Competition Commission of India, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. The answer here is only these two, Competition Commission of India and Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, and it will also take over appeals against the National Company Law Tribunal. So the answer here is only 1 and 2. IRDAI doesn't come under this. So the answer here is B. Now let's start our today's session. These are all the topics that we are going to cover in our today's video. As we didn't upload yesterday's video, we have even included 17th January's topics also. Our first article is Startups Seeking Angel Tax Exemption Get Relief. This article comes under GS Paper 3 under the topic of economy. From this article, we are going to see about two concepts. One is what is startup and what is this angel tax. First, let us see what is meant by this startup. As per a layman definition, startup is any new venture or business that has been set up. But the Government of India defines a startup in a different way. According to the Government of India, to be certified as a startup, it has to satisfy three conditions. The first one is it has to be registered under any one of the three acts. Those three acts are Companies Act of 2013 or Partnership Act of 1932, and the other one is Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2008. Any one of these three, it has to get registered. And the second one is, from the date of registration, more than 7 years should not have been passed. That means, in case, if you want to get your company registered in this year 2019 as a startup, then it should not be more than 7 years from the date of registration for your company. That means your company should get registered in 2012. It should not get registered before 2012. Then it will not be certified as a startup. And the third one is, in none of the years from the date of registration, either the total sales or the turnover should not have crossed 25 crore rupees. That means from 2012 till 2019, in none of the year, not even in a single year, the total sales of that company or their turnover should not cross 25 crore. If a company satisfies all these three conditions, then the Government of India will recognize that particular company as a startup. Now we should see what is the importance of these startups. These startups will provide huge employment opportunities and they are technologically intensive. The third one is, these startups will lead to capital creation and also capital accretion, because for a company to start, it needs capital. They will get this in the form of investments which will lead to capital creation, and they will invest this capital and they will start doing business which will provide employment opportunities, and they will reap profits out of their business which will add amount or capital into the economy, leading to this capital accretion. And these startups will have technological advancements in India. Between 2014 to 2018, more than 50,000 new ventures have started in India. Because of this reason, India has been ranked as third largest startup ecosystem in the world. Now, India is aiming to be the first largest startup ecosystem in the world. So this is all about startups. Now we'll see about this angel tax. Before seeing about this angel tax, we should know who are the angel investors. See, for example, if Mr. X wants to start a company, then Mr. X needs capital, which is difficult to get, and X has approached a bank for loan. But this bank said that they cannot understand Mr. X business model, and if they feel that their business model is risky to invest in Mr. X business, then the bank will not give loan to this Mr. X. Then here comes the angel investors who will provide initial capital or funding to Mr. X company. They could be either friends or family or relatives. They are called as angel investors who will invest on any new venture which could be a risky business. And these funds provided by these angel investors are called as angel funds. In India, these angel funds are regulated by Securities Exchange Board of India. And to put it simply, these angel investors are the investors who will invest in the idea or capability of the company. And this is the initial capital for a startup to start its functioning. Now, let us see what is this angel tax. Under the Income Tax Act of Section 56 Clause 2, the Government of India will implement this angel tax. This tax was first introduced in the Financial Bill of 2012 with an objective to ensure that money laundering will not take place in the name of investments in the country. We have already seen what is the concept of money laundering. It is converting black money into a legal money. So if Mr. X is going to start up a new company, then Mr. Y says that I will invest in your company, but this Y had so much of black money. So he can invest in Mr. X business who wants to start a new venture. In this way, this black money will get converted into a legal money. So to stop or to curb this money laundering, the Government of India has introduced this angel tax. How this angel tax will be calculated? In order to understand this concept of angel tax, we should know about two terms. They are valuation by an investor and the other is fair market value. This fair market value is of this company, value of this company. And this will be known, the value of the company will be known based on three methodologies which we'll keep seeing in the newspaper. One is discounted cash flow and the other one is net asset value and the other one is subjective methodologies. Based on these methodologies, even the government or the investors will calculate the value of this company, and based on that calculation, they will invest in this company. And our Indian tax authorities, they use this net asset value method to find the correct value of the company. So here we said that Mr. Y, who is an angel investor, he wants to invest in Mr. X company. Then in return, Mr. Y seeks some shares from this X company. That means he is seeking ownership rights from X for his investment. But based on what methodology he will calculate the value of his investment? If he has invested 50 lakh rupees, then how much ownership can he get from it? Then how he will calculate it? that is based on these methodologies. These are all the technical terms, and this net asset value methodology used by the tax officials is nothing but the difference between the liabilities of the company and the assets of the company. And the other technical term is discounted cash flows. Under this methodology, based on the future cash inflows by the company, the present value of this company will be calculated. And the next one is the subjective methodologies. This is completely based on speculation, like based on who is the founder of the company, like, or what is the product they are doing, what is its demand and what is its supply. Based on various parameters, I will evaluate the value of that company. And now we are seeing that how this angel tax is being calculated. Say for example, there is a company called as X, and Mr. A has used his own methodology and he felt that this company is of worth 1 crore and he wants 50% shares in this company and he has invested 50 lakh rupees. But tax officials, they used their own methodology to calculate the value of this company, and they said that based on their own methodology, this company values only 50 lakh rupees. Then 50% of this company shares is 25 lakh rupees only. So the fair market value of this company according to the investor A is 1 crore. But according to the tax officials, it is only 50 lakh rupees. So now if we see, the difference according to the tax official for this 50% shares is 25 lakhs. That means the tax official says that to attain 50% of shares from X company, you could have invested only 25 lakhs. But X has raised 50 lakh rupees from this investor A. And the difference is 25 lakh rupees. And this 25 lakh rupees will be considered as other incomes under the Income Tax Act. And this income will be taxed as per the income tax rules, and it will be taxed at the rate of 30%. This is how the angel tax is calculated. So if we see the definition of this angel tax, it is a 30% tax that is levied on the funding received by the startups from an external investor. But this 30% tax is levied when startups receive angel funding at a valuation that is higher than its market value. So it is counted as income to the company, and this income will be taxed at 30%. And now from this article we can see that this angel tax has been exemption for some startups. One is all the startups who have got certified by the government. We have already seen based on 3 conditions a company will be certified as a startup by the government of India. If a company satisfies all these 3 conditions, that company is also exempted from the angel tax. And another condition is if the company has received not more than 10 crore as an investment and the investor's net worth is not more than 2 crore rupees, then even in that case, the company is exempted from this angel tax. Here it is very clearly given. The government has set up this 10 crore capital as a limit for the company to raise the investment, and the investor's net worth should be at least 2 crore or the amount of investment made in the startup whichever is higher on the last date of financial year preceding the year of investment. And to claim this investment, the startups and investors, they should file an application to the DIPP, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Once it is approved, the Central Board of Direct Taxes will issue a certificate of exemption within 45 days of their application. The next article is RBI eases norms for external commercial borrowing. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. From this article, now we are going to see about a concept known as External commercial borrowings. What are these external commercial borrowings? Before knowing this, first we should know about a concept known as foreign investment. We know that India has always promoted capital inflows as part of development policy. This is due to lack of domestic capital and due to the deficit in the current account, which has compelled the government to go after this foreign capital. What is this foreign capital means? It is the money obtained from foreign countries to make investments domestically, that is within the country. This foreign capital is not homogeneous. That means there are different types of foreign capital. The major category is the foreign investment, which includes foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment. We have seen what are these so many times in our previous videos and what are their differences also. Similarly, there are other types of foreign capital like NRI deposits, and the most important one for India is the external commercial borrowings. External commercial borrowing is basically a loan that is availed by an Indian entity, especially the corporate, from the overseas markets. That is from a non-resident lender who could be a foreign financial institutions like foreign commercial banks and other institutions like IMF, International Monetary Fund. This is the loan that is availed from the non-resident lenders, that is the foreign commercial banks or institutions, with a minimum average maturity of 3 years. And this external commercial borrowing is a commercial loan. It has to be repaid in principal and with interest. And these are recorded in the capital account of our India's balance of payments. When we are dealing with current account deficit on 4th January of 2019, in that video we have seen about this balance of payments, which includes two accounts. One is current account and the other is capital account. And we have already dealt with what is meant by this current account and what is this current account deficit on 4th January video. And now this external commercial borrowing, this will come under this capital account of balance of payments. Some of the advantages of these external commercial borrowings are they provide opportunity to the corporate entities to borrow large volume of funds. They can borrow the funds in bulk, and these funds are available for long term, and the interest rates were also less compared to the domestic borrowings. And the additional advantage with these funds is they were obtained in foreign currency, so that this foreign currency will enable the corporates to import their machinery. The next article is cut CRR repo rate by 50 basic points each, says the Confederation of Indian Industry. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy, and the subtopic here is monetary policy. From this article, now we are going to see about this CRR, cash reserve ratio. It is the amount of funds the banks are supposed to keep with the Reserve Bank of India as a portion of their net demand and time liabilities. Out of their net demand and time liabilities, a portion of amount of funds the banks should keep with the Reserve Bank of India in order to ensure the liquidity and solvency of the banks. And the present CRR is 4%, that is out of their total net demand and time liabilities, 4% of it should be kept with the Reserve Bank of India. And if this is reduced, more funds will be available to the banks for lending to its customers, for deploying in other businesses, because they need to keep fewer amounts with the RBI. But in context of inflation, this reduction of CRR will leave more money in the hands of commercial banks, and it will lead to increase in the money supply in the system. When money supply increases, too much money will chase very few goods, and this will lead to rise in inflation. But when RBI increases this CRR, then less funds will be available with the banks because they have to keep larger portions of their cash with RBI. This means that banks will now have less money to use for its business, and Reserve Bank will not pay any interest on this CRR balances also. Since this commercial banks will not earn any interest, the banks will be left with an option to increase the interest rates while lending to its customers. So if the Reserve Bank of India hikes this rate, banks have to increase the interest rates. So the home loans, car loans, EMI, everything will increase. So that the hike in CRR will lead to increase in interest rates on loans provided by the banks. Whereas this will suck money out of the system, which will lead to decrease in the money supply. When money supply decreases, the inflation will automatically come down. So now if we see it again, RBI increases the CRR. What will happen? Banks will have less money for lending to its business. Then banks need to increase the interest rate to maintain profits. Then increase in interest rates in the market. The customers will borrow less money if there is high interest rate. As the interest rates has increased, there will be less money supply in the system, so that the demand for goods will also go down, so that the prices will come down and inflation will be controlled to some extent. And the next one, what we are going to see from this article is what is meant by this repo rate. Repo rate is also known as repurchase rate. It is the rate at which RBI will lend to the banks for a short term, for a short period. This is done by the Reserve Bank of India by buying the government bonds from banks with an agreement to sell them back at a fixed rate. So now if we see, when RBI increases this repo rate, then banks can borrow less at a lower cost. As we said that it is the rate at which banks will lend to the banks. Banks are now the customers of this RBI. Now it is lending to the banks. But there is some interest rate. If this interest rate is high, then banks will borrow less and they have to lend at higher rates. So this contributes to increase in interest rates in the market. So when there is increase in interest rate, the same principle again. The customers will borrow less, the money supply will decrease, and the demand for goods will decrease, resulting in decrease in the inflation. Whereas if this repo rate has decreased, then banks will borrow more and they will lend to its customers at relatively less rates comparing to that when the repo rate is higher. Then more funds were available to the customers. They will invest in the new business. There is more money supply in the economy, which results in inflation. So to contain inflation, RBI will generally increase this repo rate. That is called a tight monetary policy stance. Whereas to increase the liquidity in the economy, it will decrease this repo rate. It is the rate at which RBI will lend to the banks for a short period. The next article is Balancing Act in Afghanistan. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international relations. From this article, we are going to see about this Tapi pipeline. Tapi gas pipeline is a proposed trans-country natural gas pipeline trans-country natural gas pipeline from Caspian Sea, Turkmenistan to India through Afghanistan and Pakistan. So here the countries involved are, from the abbreviation itself we can see the members are Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan and India. And the distance is, this pipeline will connect Central Asia with South Asia by covering 1800 kilometers. This pipeline will begin from Turkmenistan's Galkanish field it will run through Herat and Kandahar provinces of Afghanistan and through Pakistan, and it will end in Punjab of India. This project is considered as an important initiative for these 4 countries because it will connect energy-rich Central Asia with the energy-starved South Asia. Now we'll see some of the facts, like how many reserves. The gas reserves is 16 trillion cubic feet, and the estimated construction cost of this project is around $10 billion US, and the capacity of this pipeline is to carry 90 million standard cubic meters per day. So in this capacity, out of this, the supply share for India and Pakistan is, they will get the supply of about 38 million standard cubic meters per day, whereas Afghanistan will get 14 supply of natural gas. And this life of supply is expected to last for a period of 30 years. And from India's perspective, this project will provide an alternative supply source of gas with dependable reserves that will lead India to enhance its energy security. The next article is Justices Maheshwari and Karna made Supreme Court judges. Supreme Court has got 2 new judges. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of polity, and here the subtopic is appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and their responsibilities. From the prelims point of view, what we need to study from this article is, we should know about this collegium system for the appointment of judges, selection and removal of Supreme Court judges. So what is this collegium system of appointment of judges? As per Article 124 of the Constitution of India, the President has appointed Justices Karna and Maheshwari as the Supreme Court judges, and their names were recommended by this collegium. So what is this collegium system of appointment of judges? Collegium system was commissioned by 2 judgments of Supreme Court in 1990s. There is no mention of this collegium system in the original Constitution of India or even in its successive amendments. In the 3rd judge's case of 1998, the Supreme Court has felt that the Chief Justice of India should consult a collegium of 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court, and even if 2 of these judges give an opinion against the other people, then the CJI should not send the recommendation to the government for appointing the judges. Now if we see what is the eligibility to become a Supreme Court judge, to become the judge of Supreme Court, an individual should be an Indian citizen. And the norms that were relating to the eligibility are envisaged under Article 124 of the Constitution. In terms of age, a person should not exceed 65 years of age, and the person should serve as a judge of 1 high court or more for at least 5 years continuously, or the person should be an advocate in the high court for at least 10 years, or he should be a distinguished jurist. This is the eligibility criteria to become a Supreme Court judge. Now let us see if this collegium's recommendation is final and binding. The collegium will send its final recommendation to the President of India for approval. The President can either accept it or he can even reject it. If it is rejected, the recommendation will come back to the collegium. If the collegium will send back its recommendation to the President, then he or she, whoever is the President, they should bind by that recommendation. They are bound by that recommendation. The next article is states cannot pick police chiefs on their own. Supreme Court. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of polity, and here the subtopic is separation of powers between various organs, dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. From the prelims point of view, from this article we should know about the appointment of DGPs and the role of UPSC. Here in this article we can see that the Supreme Court has dismissed the petitions of the states of Punjab, Kerala, West Bengal, Haryana and Bihar. They wanted to implement their own local laws in selecting and appointing the DGPs. In this case, here the Supreme Court has issued some directions in the appointment of DGP. Some of those directions are here: the states and union territories, they should send names of senior police officers to the Union Public Service Commission, who will consider the probable candidates for the post of DGPs or police commissioners. The UPSC will then prepare a list of 3 most suitable candidates out of the list of names sent by the states and union territories. Now the states are free to appoint any of them out of these 3 as the police chief. So it is mandatory for the states to send the list of senior police officers. All the senior police officers list has to be sent by the states and union territories to the UPSC. That too at least 3 months prior to the retirement of the serving officer of that post. The UPSC will then form a committee and it will intimate the concerned state, which in turn will immediately appoint one of the persons from that list. The next article is hitting its stride. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international relations, and here the subtopic is international organizations. From this article, now we are going to see about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. This is a multilateral development bank which is initiated by China with an objective to provide finance to infrastructure development projects and regional connectivity projects in Asia Pacific region. This bank is viewed as Asia's response to the West dominated Asian Development Bank and World Bank. Here we should know where it is headquartered. It is headquartered in Beijing city of China, and initially it was established with a mission to improve social and economic outcomes in Asia and beyond Asia. Some of the goals of this bank are to boost economic development in this Asia Pacific region and to provide infrastructure and promote regional cooperation, transport, rural infrastructure, environmental protection and logistics in Asia. At present, in this bank, China is the largest shareholder with 26% voting shares, and India is the second largest shareholder, followed by Russia, Germany and South Korea. And in this article, there is also mention of New Development Bank. This New Development Bank is also referred as BRICS Development Bank. It is also a multilateral development bank operated by all these 5 countries, that is the BRICS states: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Even this bank's primary focus of lending is to infrastructure projects only. And the authorized capital for this new development bank is $100 billion. But the initial subscribed capital is $50 billion only, which will be increased to $100 billion over time. All the 5 countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, they have initially contributed $10 billion each to bring the total to $50 billion. Unlike the World Bank, which will assign the votes based on capital shares, even our Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank will have these voting shares. These are based on the size of each member country's economy, but not based on the contribution to the bank's authorized capital. Whereas this World Bank will assign votes based on the capital shares. Here in this new development bank, each participant country will be assigned 1 vote and no country will have veto power. Countries apart from the BRICS countries will also be the members of this bank. So as the bank will allow new members to join, but the share of the BRICS countries should not drop below 55%. And this bank was headquartered in Shanghai city of China. This is formed in 2015 to provide support, financial support to the public and private projects through loans, guarantees, equity participation, etc. Here these 2 articles were mentioned because just note down them. Nagoba Yatra, it belongs to which particular community and in which location of India these traditions were followed. These will come under GS1 under the topic of Indian culture. So whenever any festival or any dance forms or anything that appears in the paper, just note it down and in which state it is celebrated. And if it is related to any tribe, note down about that tribe also. So here we can see about this Nagoba Yatra. It is famously associated with the Mezram clan of Rajgons of Telangana. The next article is Slump in Numeracy Skills of Rural Class 8 Students. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance, and here the subtopic is regarding issues related to education. From this article, what is important from the prelims point of view is just note down about this report and who released it. It is the Pradham NGO, which is a non-profit organization, has released this report. It is an annual survey about the education in the rural areas. And note down these details which can be used to substantiate our answers in the mains. Other than this, there is nothing much important from this article. Just note down these findings of this report. Now let's see our today's prelims questions. These are the 2 questions. Try to answer these 2 questions and post your answers in the comment box, and tomorrow we'll see a detailed explanation for these questions. And this is a Lloyd's Loans website where you can access the notes for this video. Thank you.